Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Doing another kitchen device video here, and the reason is I talked not too long ago about the fact that I'm going to be doing some kind of unusual cooking stuff, and one of the items that I'm sure is going to come up in a future video is going to be this, our Vitamix. And I just wanted to do a little showcase of it because it's a really cool device. Now, I will never forget as a kid, friends of the family, when we went to go and visit them, they would always use their standard garden variety blender to make milkshakes. And I was like, oh my god, I love milkshakes. And I convinced my parents, hey, let's get a blender so we can make milkshakes. Yay! And so we did. And the problem with your normal blender, at least in the old 1970s variety, was, yeah, you had like the top and everything was great and it would make great milkshakes, but every time you used it, you always had to unscrew the bottom, take out the blades, take out the little rubber stopper thing, and give it a wash every single time you used it. And that was not a problem, but I did find eventually, yeah, I can't be bothered making any milkshakes or anything like that. We used it for other purposes, but for me, in my head, blenders were kind of like, alright, well, I don't think I'm ever going to really use those things. And I'll never forget watching the 1998 film, Enemy of the State, with Will Smith and Gene Hackman. There's a whole subplot, there's a little thing where when the government comes to take over Will Smith's house, they use his blender, and he's really mad about that because he has some kind of a thing where he's like, that's how I deal with problems, I blend stuff. It's like, alright. And I'll never forget there's even a line in the film, I think they break his blender, and he makes some reference to the fact that, oh man, that thing cost me like $500. And I remember sitting in the theater going, whoa, $500 for a blender? Are you crazy? That's nuts. So, years later, we spent more than that on this. Now, my wife pointed out that any really good blender or juicer or extractor or any of those kind of devices, if they've got like a solid engine in them and really, really powerful blades, you're going to be forking over top dollar for that. And she had her eye on a Vitamix for the longest time, and I thought, well, you know what? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's spend a lot of money on a Vitamix because, well, she just really, really wanted it, and I remember thinking, well, okay, the serious devices that do this task are in the top price tag. So we spent quite a lot on this one. And we actually went for, I think this is a slightly more deluxe version of what was available. It was about 4 years ago we got this thing. There was one that was a slightly lower price, I think, but it was much taller. And we thought, well, we'll get this one because what we hoped for was this would actually fit, the profile would fit under our cabinets. But as you can see, our cabinets are just that little bit too short or too low. So this thing has to kind of sit out on, regardless. Now this thing has proven to be a real godsend with some of the stuff that we've been making lately. And I'm going to do a couple of cute little recipe applications for this thing in a minute to show you just some of the stuff that this can do. And then in future videos, I'm really going to put this thing to its test. What I also really like, in addition to the neat things you can make with this, it is an extremely powerful, I don't know how many horsepower this thing has, but it's a very, very solid machine. But what I really like is you don't have to take this thing apart every time you wash it. I mean, this thing is, the blades are in there permanently. You're not taking that out. And it even has a wash cycle, which I'm going to use again in a few minutes. You would basically fill it with some, once you've used it, fill it with some water, put in a little bit of soap, and it's actually got a washing cycle on here. That's great! So that, first of all, makes really, really great things in addition to milkshakes. And it's self-cleaning, or very easy to clean anyway. So, really, really love this thing, and I thought, well, let me show you what some of the stuff is that we can do with it, and I'll even show you the cleaning cycle. So here's a closer look at the Vitamix itself. It's got a capacity of 8 cups, or about 2 liters inside there, which is pretty good. I'll show you those blades in a second, but down at the bottom is where the real showcase is. This thing has got a lot of different controls, different things you can set it for. Basically, we've got the ability to make juice, to make ice cream, to make soup, to, oh, I can't remember what that one is. And there's the cleaning cycle there. And you can either, this is the on-off switch, or you can just pulse stuff briefly. That's what that little symbol is there. Power button on the side. I'll show you some of the cool stuff this thing can do. And just a quick look inside. The lid comes off, and it's actually very easy to sort of spin this, take this off. This is just one chunk of rubber, so it's easy to clean. And down there are the very powerful blades. Again, as I mentioned, you don't take this thing off. This is all one piece that remains, so that's really a nice feature of the Vitamix. Alright, let's get using the Vitamix just to show off a couple of neat features. Before I do, first of all, I will definitely be reducing the volume of the recording because this thing is loud. I mean, it's not so bad you're going to wake up your neighbors, but it's a pretty loud machine. And secondly, another feature that that removable top has that's kind of helpful and good for safety is there's another item that comes with this thing called the tamper. Looks almost like a policeman's bat. And what that is if you've got something that, you just want to mix it up, you've got something stuck in there or whatever, they don't want you sticking your hand in there, not with those blades going down that's fast. The tamper is designed that if you pop the lid off here, then it can only go so far before it reaches that edge. And that means your fingers are safe. You can use it to mix stuff around and you're not anywhere near the blade itself. So that's, I think I'll probably be using that on the second of these two little recipes I'm about to make. But let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to show you that the Vitamix is really good at is grating cheese. Now you can sit here, as I often have, and grate and get, a little bit of cheese out of that. But what I really like is the Vitamix can do that for us, so that's a nice labor saver. Basically, all I'm going to do is take some cubed cheese that I've got here, pop the lid off, cheese goes right in. And for this, what we're going to do, turn the unit on here, and actually set the selector here to all the way to the maximum. I'll use these settings in a second. And basically, I'm just going to pulse this thing a few times here. Watch this. Maybe give it a little shake. And that's it. We got grated cheese. I mean, it's really more like cheese sawdust, but it works. I mean, it saves you having to do any of the kind of grating and stuff. So yeah, that is one of my favorite features. And to finish off, I'm going to make some ice cream. I've shown you there's like a little setting for that right there. And this is pseudo-healthy stuff too, because all we're doing is we're taking some frozen strawberries and some frozen bananas and shoving them in there and hitting the button. Now, I've left these out of the freezer for about 20 minutes so they're not completely chunks of ice, but let's give it a whirl. So pop the lid, put our bananas straight in, then our frozen strawberries. And just to give it a little bit of a liquid base, I do like to add just a splash of milk. Not too much, about that much. Alright, lid on, and I'm going to fire it up, but the audio you're about to hear is a much reduced volume from how loud this thing really is. And I know this thing is going to need the tamper. Here we go. we go. There's our ice cream. And this will be enough for 2 people very nicely, or you could be a bit greedy and just have the whole thing yourself. And just spoon out a very nice portion right there. There's enough there for another bowl like that. But check that out. Like, that is ice cream. It tastes like ice cream, and it's nothing but frozen strawberries and bananas. Yum, yum. Now I'll show you my favorite feature of the Vitamix, and that's the cleaning cycle. So I got all of our bits of ice cream still sitting in there. We're going to clean all that stuff out. I did do this for the cheese prior, but I thought I'm going to show you this one since this is the final bit. So basically, we just take the jug, put in some water here. Don't think it needs to be all that much, maybe half fill. There we go. You don't want it to be too full because this thing's going to start tossing around the water, so you need to give it a bit of room. Just a little squirt of common everyday dishwashing liquid. Pop the lid on. And down to cleaning cycle and go. Excellent. So you can see it's very frothy there. Just pop the lid off, and wow, it's really frothy. So it's kind of done inside there already. Essentially, you just put that into your sink, take the clean here, and just pour it right into the lid because you're going to give that a proper rinse off. And there we go. Look at that. Brand spanking new. Love that feature. Just leave it to dry. And I'll give this a little rinse out. I might even use a brush on this, but really, really love how easy it is to clean the Vitamix. Awesome. And that is the Vitamix. That is a really, really nice machine that we have ended up using a heck of a lot more than I had originally anticipated. It is very much a case of you get what you pay for. I mean, this thing can pulverize fruit, it can crush ice, it can do a whole bunch of really neat things you're going to see in the future, but you end up paying for it. And this was a very, very expensive item, but we do use it, I mean, every other day. It's been a really, really great purchase. Love this thing, and I'd recommend it if you can afford it. So, there's the Vitamix. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.